so this webinar today is going to be on how to properly manage your sign calls, how to properly pre-qualify your listings and your buyer presentation. So get your notepads out, guys. We're going to hit a lot of different things here today, but I really want to make sure that you guys get a ridiculous amount of value from this session. So I'm here with my right-hand man, Joe Moretti. Unfortunately, we can't get his camera going. His face is better for radio anyways. So I think that's going to be a good thing, Joe Moretti. So first off, let's talk quickly, Joe, about the problem that we're seeing in the industry right now and why I felt compelled to put on something today for everybody. Because I think right now there's a lot of sloppiness that's happening in the real estate industry. A common thing that I'm seeing right now is people are basically getting sign calls on their listings. Buyers are feeling frantic right now, wanting to jump on properties. And agents have forgotten the art of how to properly pre-qualify people, how to set themselves up for success. But not only that, how to create a world-class experience. And so we've basically created this whole commoditized experience of real estate. If you guys are in the United States right now or parts of Canada where you're competing with Zillows, and Zillow is notorious for commoditizing what realtors do, right? They tell you, here's a lead, act on it right away. The person wants to see the house, you get them in right away. I'm telling you guys right now, I don't agree with that. And if you want to compete with the major portals out there and build a world-class real estate practice, you need to become very, very skilled in your processes and systems. And this is something we do a lot of coaching around. And so today I'm going to touch on the art of pre-qualification. So Joe Moretti, you're going to be playing the role of a client today. We're going to go through some different scripts that I have developed as a team here for different scenarios. So the first one that I want to cover with you, Joe, is the sign call on a listing.
Okay, let's do it.
You up for it? So you're calling me. I don't know you at all. I'm just getting the random call from you on a listing that I have. And so you guys, for context, this could be an internet lead that is registered on your website and wants to view a property or wants more information on a property. This could be a sign call. Hey, I saw your listing. That's the scenario that we're going to play out. So I'm going to walk you guys through the process of how I would handle that. So Joe Moretti, ring, ring. Hey, this is Jason Simard with Sims Real Estate Group. How can I help you?
Hey, Jason. My name is Joe, and I'm actually I'm sitting outside one of your properties you got listed right here, and I'd love it if you let me in.
You know what, Joe? I would love to show you that listing. And the thing is the sellers generally of our listings do require 24 hours notice before getting in. So can I ask you, Joe? What does your schedule look like? What does your schedule look like over the next couple of days?
I guess if I had to come back, probably tomorrow around this time, if possible.
Okay, so you're thinking maybe tomorrow around 1 o'clock would work for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, why don't we do this, Joe? Why don't we tentatively plan for 1 o'clock tomorrow? That'll give me time to reach out to my sellers and just confirm that that works with them. Now, Joe, before we do that, do you mind if I just ask you a few questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. What was it about this particular property that stood out to you, Joe, that prompted you to reach out today?
Yeah, it's actually fairly close to where we are now, but it's a little bit closer to the kids' school, which was a huge piece for us. My wife and I work from home, so it's not so much that we need to be close to a specific location, but we really would like to be a bit closer to the high school.
Okay, so you want to be closer to the high school with the kids. Now, Joe, besides this particular property, what are some of the other properties that you guys have seen that have stood out to you?
Haven't really been actively looking, but for us, I think we would like to get something that's a bit of a newer construction than what we have right now. Like to be more focused on kind of spending time with the family versus maintenance and new roofs and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, perfect. That makes a lot of sense, Joe. Now, Joe, what are the things that are most important to you in the next house that you guys are looking to move to?
It definitely location. I really want to be close to the kids' school. This will be our last move for a very long time. So really want to be settled close to the kids' school. They're going to be in high school for, I guess, about 4 years. And then just want something that's a little bit kind of like turnkey, that if my wife and I want to go and travel, we can just kind of lock the door and walk away. So quality of neighborhood is really important too.
Well, give me some of the specifics. So I got that locations get really important to you, kids' school, something that's more turnkey. What are some of the main must-haves, maybe for you or your wife, that are really important in the house?
Yeah, well, my wife and I both work from home, so I definitely need some type of den or office space. I'd like it kind of away from where all the bedrooms are, like other side of the house or on like a different level, just because I'm on Zoom calls all day. And then my wife works from home. She doesn't mind kind of setting up like a spare room to kind of act as an office. So I'd say minimum, like minimum 4 bedroom and a den, and then I'd say like two to three baths, 2.5 minimum.
Perfect. Now, Joe, can I ask, what is it about your current home now that isn't quite working for you guys that has you guys exploring this move in the first place?
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of like the age of the house, number one, and then location.
Okay.
Those are kind of the big two.
All right. Age of house. So you're kind of seeing that there's going to be some maintenance coming down the pipeline for you. And then the proximity to the kids' school.
You got it.
Okay. Excellent. And Joe, what are some of the homes that you guys have seen recently that have stood out to you guys?
We've kind of driven like through this block quite a few times. The one at 5974 that sold about 6 months ago, I really liked that one. Again, it's for us more than anything else. It's just the age of the home and the location.
Okay. Perfect. And so, I mean, Joe, in your guys' ideal world, when were you guys planning to make a move?
Mm, I mean, I'd like to be settled at some point during the summer so that we can, the kids can start the school year and we're not worrying about packing, and we've already unpacked and they can sort of enjoy the house and settle in.
Okay, sounds good. And then Joe, you mentioned that someone else is making the decision with you. So I'm assuming your spouse. Can you tell me her name and a little bit more about how she feels about the potential move?
Yeah, I mean, she loves this house. It's again, it was kind of her idea to kind of just keep sort of driving through the neighborhoods until we saw something pop up. So yeah, yeah, Jennifer, she's all over it.
Okay, so she's all over the potential move. Perfect.
Yes.
Now, okay, so let's walk through this here, Joe. You and Jennifer walk through this house, and let's just say it kind of checks off all the boxes. It's got, the bedrooms, it's got the den, it's got the bathrooms, the yard, the proximity to the school, quite turnkey because it's a newer house. In your mind, what would be the next steps in order for you guys to feel comfortable purchasing it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we'd have to sell the house that we're in now, and then I obviously would have to speak to like a broker or a bank or something. It's been a little while since we've done this, but those are kind of the two main things that we'd have to do.
Okay, perfect. So you mentioned you would have to sell the house in order to make the move, and then you would want to speak to a broker just to kind of get a better sense of exactly where your budget stands.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Let me just quickly recap everything with you, Joe, so we're on the same page. So, number one, this stood out to you because it's close to the school. You guys are in the early stages of thinking about making a move. Obviously, location is really important to you. Something that isn't going to require maintenance in the near future. So you want something more turnkey. Minimum 4 bedrooms and a den, 2 to 3 bathrooms. Is there anything else that I'm missing here, Joe, that's important for me to know?
Yeah, we have like a little dog too. So a fenced yard is a definite must-have. Um, Also, I know that some of the houses on this block, they have like single car garages, some are double. I'd really like to have a double so that I have a motorcycle and I like to kind of mess around with that on the weekends. So I like to have a bit of space for that and then just some excess storage. And yeah, so it's a definitely garage and fence.
Okay, so a double garage would be important to you. A fenced yard for your dog. That's really good and important for me to know. All right, so Joe, so what we have right now is we do have a tentative time for tomorrow at 1 o'clock to kind of look at the property. What I'd like to do, Joe, is because you guys are still a little bit early in the process, and that's actually a really good thing. I'd like to actually turn tomorrow into an exploratory tour where you, myself, and Jennifer can actually go and look at several houses, maybe 3 or 4 houses, just so you guys can kind of get some context of what's out there. And here's the objective, Joe. We're not buying a house tomorrow. We're really going to go out there and get a feel for things because there are a few steps that we really need to kind of start working towards in order to make this possible. But I think you and Jen will really feel good about being able to kind of move from behind a keyboard to actually looking at some homes. How do you feel about that?
Yes, yeah, it sounds good. Like I said, we haven't really done this process in a while. So yeah, yeah, sort of hearing more about it would definitely help.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of logical, right? I mean, in order for Jennifer to feel comfortable in yourself, you probably want to see some properties. And for me, it's important that you guys feel really comfortable and the transition is as smooth as possible. So we have a process that we follow. So why don't we do this, Joe? Why don't we tentatively book it? Maybe instead of tomorrow at 1 o'clock, why don't we book something for Saturday? I assume because you both work from home, you guys could probably dedicate could you dedicate a couple hours on a Saturday, say around 10 a.m. and maybe we can go and look at a few properties. It gives me a little bit more time to sort of dig up some homes that check off the boxes of what you're looking for. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so why don't we do that? So let's tentatively book for Saturday at 10 a.m. And then what I'd like to do before the appointment, there's a coffee shop actually right around the corner from the house. Is it possible that you and Jen can maybe meet me there around 9:30 a.m. On Saturday? And what I'd like to do is just kind of sit down with you guys, go through the process a little bit more in detail, get to know her a little bit more, so that when we're actually going through the houses, you guys can be 100% focused on making sure that you guys are really getting to see the homes and get a good feel for them, because this is going to be a really good learning opportunity for me as we work together. So would that be okay with you, Joe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. Now I'll stop the role play there, guys. So here's the thing. Let's break down. So Joe, let's go back to the very start of the process. What did I do with you?
So number one, I mean, there's no back and forth. I wanted to see the house, and you gave it to me. It wasn't right now, but
Right,
we set up a time.
right. Well, how did I do that? What was it that I said in order to kind of make you feel you were getting what you wanted, so that we weren't getting in a tug of war or you getting annoyed with me because I'm asking a bunch of questions.
Well, number one, you asked me if it was okay to ask questions, and you also referenced, yeah, you're the really great sellers. I'd love to get you into this property. So it's not like one person against the other. It's two people looking for the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, my sellers are great, but they are the types that always require a day or so's notice. What does your schedule look like over the next couple days? So easy to do that. And so many of you right now are just like jumping when people tell you to jump, and you don't need to. Literally, because I'm not putting a hand in your face, Joe. I would love to show you the property. Unfortunately, it does require a day or so's notice. What does your schedule look like over the next couple days? So easy to kind of park that and move along. And so I was able to tentatively book an appointment, and I said, Joe, I would reach back out to you. What was the next step that I did in the process that was effective? What did I do before I started asking you questions?
But you ask permission to ask questions.
Yeah. Why is that important?
Well, just so I'm not like, well, what's the point of this? Like it opens it up, and you can ask me anything you want if you've gotten permission.
Exactly.
You can ask me my shoe size, and it wouldn't matter because you've asked me permission.
Exactly. So the key is you want to get consent, because it would be illogical for you at this point, Joe, to come back to me and tell me that, why are you asking me these questions? Because you gave me consent for it. Now, if you guys were listening, what was the first question that I asked, Joe? Do you remember?
So what was it about this house that stood out to you?
Yeah. What was it about this house that stood out to you that prompted you to reach out today? Why is that a really good soft first question to kind of lead with?
Well, you can build some rapport off it, and you can really get a good understanding of what's important to that client. Like you know exactly what's catching their eye, and it's really easy to find out what their motivation is or their why. They're going to tell you right off the hop.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so from there, I was able to ask some good open-ended questions. And my objective was really to get you to open up and start sharing information with me. And what I'm trying to gather here is who, what, where, when, why, right? What are the reasons for the moves? What are the things you're hoping to gain, right? Who's going to be involved in the decision? What are the must-haves in the property, right? Now, the very last question I asked, and there's a couple things I would probably do differently if I'm coaching myself here going back. I probably would have asked, hey, what is it that you and Jen do for work? I probably would have got a little bit more information on that. But what I was able to identify is you guys didn't have your ducks in a row. And do you remember that last question that I asked, Joe?
Yeah, it was what would have to happen if this is your dream house? What are the next steps?
Yeah, so it was like, so Joe, assuming you and Jen both walk through the house and it seems to check off all the boxes for you, it's got the bedrooms, it's got the den, it's got the space. In your mind, in order to make this move, what would be the next steps that would have to happen for you? And if you guys aren't listening, please pay attention to that. Write that down, because that is pure gold. That question there is so much easier to get information from someone than saying, are you pre-qualified? Have you been to your bank? Because that feels like an interrogation. So by me asking that, I was able to uncover 2 hidden opportunities. Number 1, I knew that you weren't pre-qualified. Number 2, I also knew that you guys have a home that you need to sell first. And so you guys are early in the process. So what I did is I then did a full recap with you guys about the things that you're looking for. And then my recommendation was that we turn this into an exploratory tour. And then what I did is once I got the commitment for the exploratory tour, Joe, and I kind of talked about the benefits of moving from behind a keyboard to in person, right? Then I booked a consultation where I would take 30 minutes to kind of meet with you guys and dial in the relationship a little bit more. And I could have done that maybe sooner, right? I maybe could have said, hey, why don't we do a Zoom meeting before that sometime later this evening or tomorrow? But the key here is you guys are strangers. I don't want to overwhelm you with too many things. I think in this case, you guys are both working. You guys have a home that you own already. You know, it's worth me exploring this a little bit further and go into a consultation. Now, there's probably, again, some questions I could have tightened up there to get a little bit further into the pre-qualification thing. Some of you are going to say, well, I would never show a property to somebody who's not pre-qualified. And that's fair. That's totally your prerogative. My thought is, though, I'm a complete stranger. Joe, you're a stranger. If I can get in front of you guys with a solid process, slow things down a little bit by creating an exploratory tour, don't you think my ability to kind of move you guys along in the process and get the market evaluation is going to be far greater by doing that than to try and do it all on that very first phone call?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So Jamie asked a really good question. How would you roll the CMA into this situation and talk more about the sale of the home part? So my goal here is to get in front of you and Jennifer and have that conversation. And really what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the expectation from the consultation where I can be face-to-face with both you and Jennifer. I'm going to set the expectation around, hey, you know what? At the end of the tour today, what I would love to do is pop by your guys' house and maybe take a look and then put together an evaluation so that you guys at least have some numbers. But by me being able to meet with you guys, walk through some properties, and hopefully you guys can kind of get a sense of where things are at in the market, it's moving you further along in the process. And so I'm going to focus on the market evaluation in the consultation, Jamie, to answer your question. In this scenario, that's what I would do. Because sometimes if you go too aggressive too quickly, you might push them away, right? Remember, I need to build some rapport and trust. And I'll give you this context, Joe. If you were in the dating world and you were meeting a girl for the first time, and right away in that very first phone call, you're like, hey, do you want to come back and Netflix and chill? Do you want to come back and watch a movie at my house? What do you think would happen?
There'd be no second phone call, Jason.
It's a little forward, isn't it? So in order for you to feel comfortable or for her to feel comfortable to come back and watch a movie, there's probably things that need to happen, like having coffee, right? In a safe public place, getting to know each other a little bit more, maybe having dinner, right? So there's a series of things that need to go there. And I think sometimes you can come off a little bit too strong or too focused on yourself if you're hitting them too early. So in this case, I determined this would be an opportunity that I would want to get in front of. And again, I took the pressure off by making it an exploratory tour. So we're not out writing offers. And we'll talk about that in another time, why it's so important to do an exploratory tour, especially in a really hot housing market where people are rushing and making mistakes. Any other, depends on the girl. Some people are saying, well, you're right. You know, and if the girl's down to chill right away and I haven't had a chance to build rapport, I don't know if it's the girl that I want to take home, but you know, to each their own. So my advice is give yourself the highest probability of being able to convert the relationship and be a little bit more patient by having a really good system and process. Any thoughts, any final thoughts or any other questions around this particular scenario that we covered here with sign calls? I'll open it up to questions if anybody wants to type in some questions, and also Joe, yourself, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's great to have a process. I think that is so key because I think sometimes without that, when that phone rings, there's almost like that panic. Like it's like a frantic, like I just need to get there. I just need to open the door. Right. So I think that having a process is so critical. Have a process for everything. Have a script that you lean on, and also have like a group of people that you practice it with. Because what you do in role play, you're going to do on your own. So it's great to actually have a script, but also have somebody to practice with. I'd say like practice 1 minute, 1 hour for every 1 minute you anticipate you're going to be on the phone. So in terms of a 10-minute phone call on average, at least 10 hours of scripting needs to go in behind it.
Right. Good advice. Really sound advice. So for compliance, so people that are in British Columbia, there's this whole DORTS and privacy thing that you need to do. So again, I'm not a compliance officer. Check with your managing brokers, but what I would do is I would be going over some of those things in person. I would never start a conversation and say, by the way, we don't know each other. We don't know anything about each other, but like, I just want you to know that blah, 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 right? To me, that wouldn't be a logical sequence. Again, follow what you feel is right with your managing broker's advice. But again, the key here is the quality of the question. So you could easily position it at the beginning if you wanted to. Like I said, by the way, Joe, I just want to remind you that, I'm going to be asking you some questions, and any of the information that I uncover, I'm going to 100% keep confidential. So just so you know that any information that you share with me, I will never share to anybody else. I'm under a duty to do that. And I'm going to do implied agency with any prospect that I deal with. In fact, that's something that our group does, is we don't actually work with any unrepresented buyers. And if we were to break that rule, it would be a very rare circumstance, and it would literally have to be a realtor or a lawyer on the other end who has experience dealing with real estate for us to break that. So we do implied agency with everybody. So any of the information we're going to uncover is going to be kept confidential. There's another one here. Can I repeat the part in your mind? What needs to happen next? Script. Yeah. So Richard, so Joe, you and Jennifer walk through the property, and it seems to check off all the boxes. It really seems like this could be a good fit for you guys. In your mind, in order for you guys to make this transition, what would be the next steps that would have to happen? So I hope you wrote that down. Now, somebody asked me, I didn't hear you ask if they're working with a realtor. I'll be honest with you, I absolutely hate that question, because where do I go if you say yes or no? Right? It's a very short question. So how I was able to get information from you that led me to believe you hadn't been out with anybody is I actually asked you, it was one of my questions. So Joe, can you tell me some of the properties that you guys have seen that have really stood out to you? And if you remember how you answered that question, you hadn't really seen anything yet.
Yep.
You were in the early phases of that. So that's a better question, because if are you working with a realtor, Joe, where am I going to go with that?
It's nowhere. Yes, I am.
And some people literally, their first question is, well, are you working with a realtor? And then you wonder why you're not getting deep and you're not getting rapport with any of these prospects, because it's a really kind of an awkward it's like an interrogation, basically, the question. So for me, I'm a big fan of asking more open-ended dialogue that gets people to give more information than they plan to.
So Jace, someone's asked us a question here. So in this market, this is from Christopher Walker. In this market where a client is really concerned about losing out, isn't asking them to wait when you could get them in today risk not reading their needs and losing them?
No. So here's the deal. This is the problem. Your clients are telling you to jump, and you're saying how high. And so you need to slow down the process. So let's actually walk this through, guys, so this clicks for you. So Chris, you, in this case, my wife and myself, so Natasha and myself, we go and you show us a property, right? So we wanted to see it. You got us in that day. You didn't do a proper consultation. You have never showed us any properties, so we don't really have any context for anything. Let's just say that we happen to want to write an offer. Joe, what do you think is going to happen if we write an offer on that property? And let's just say that it's a competitive situation where there's multiple offers.
Yeah, that's a great question.
What's going to happen, Joe, is I'll tell you. Number one, are we going to be able to write a competitive offer where we actually even have a chance at the property? What do you think the chances of that are?
No, I don't think so at all.
So Chris, you're going to have to try and advise me on how to write an offer. And likely I'm going to have to go well over asking price in a lot of circumstances right now. How the heck are you going to tell me and my wife, who we don't know you, we don't have rapport and trust with you, and we don't have any market context? How are you going to convince us to do that without us feeling like you're being shady or you're just kind of a used car salesman? So that's the number one risk. The second thing is, let's just say we get lucky and we write an offer and it gets accepted. What do you think is going to be happening over the next 24 to 48 hours, Joe, behind the scenes?
I honestly, buyer's remorse, because I think maybe I jumped on the first thing a little too soon. Exactly. What else is out there? What else could I have seen that I don't even know about yet?
Exactly. So my wife is going to call her mom, and I love her mom, but she's a strong-willed woman, just like my wife. And so she's going to have some strong opinions. She's going to say, "You guys paid what? And you guys bought the first house you looked at? What are you doing? You're making a mistake." Then she's going to jump online and she's going to be sending her properties left and right. And all of a sudden, my wife's going to be like, "Oh my God, I feel so anxious now. I feel really horrible." On the flip side, I'm going to call my dad maybe and have a conversation with my dad. Great guy, but has a grade 9 education, but he has a doctorate in every single subject of life. So as soon as I tell him I've done the same thing, all of a sudden he's going to have strong opinions. So next thing you know, Joe Moretti, you're getting a phone call and from me or my wife, and I'm like, "Oh man, Joe, I'm really sorry, but like we want out of this contract." Where do you go from there?
There's nowhere.
It's difficult to recover from that. How do you recover the relationship? It's going to feel a little bit strained. So had you slowed the process down, right? Created a scenario where you can have a more of a consultation, build rapport with both parties, go out and explore some properties together, give them some context for the market so that when they do write an offer, right? And they may write an offer from one of the properties in that first tour, but at least they'll have some context, right? But
Hmm.
the goal here is to give people context for what things are actually selling for. So if I can say, "Hey, Joe, remember that house that had the shag carpet and the purple paint in the kitchen? That house sold for 682,000. Remember the house that had the really small lot, but it had the beautiful open concept kitchen and the quartz countertops? That one sold for 782, right? Those are things that are important for your buyers to be able to kind of assemble in their mind. So your job as a realtor is going to be able to follow up and let them know what some of those properties have sold for that they looked at, because you're trying to help them build context. That's called having a really good process. You should never, ever, ever write an offer unless your clients are very well prepared so that they're competitive on every offer. You're not going to win every time, but they need to be competitive because you've armed them with the right tools. And I can tell you, being a strong listing agent, the amount of offers that we see in a multiple offer scenario that should have never been written in the first place is high. I'd say over 50% of the offers that come in, you can pretty much discard. And a big pet peeve of mine right now, Joe, is a lot of people are saying, "Well, they need to lose 2 or 3 before they learn." I think that's a terrible mindset, because if they're having to lose over and over, how do you think they're feeling every single time?
Just well, it's defeating. It's an emotional high and then it followed by an emotional low. It's just exhausting.
It's exhausting. The other thing that's exhausting as well is you're taking a lot of your own time that you could be having a better process and spending more time having these solid exploratory meetings with clients, having consultations and working with solid buyers who've had their financing approved. They've got their pre-approval letter in hand, right? You've got the evaluations in place. So you've got a strategy on getting the home listed and sold, right? You've got everyone prepared so that they can go and compete in the market. You've had conversation with their lenders. So again, I hope that makes sense and answers the question. Is there any other questions that have come in, Joe?
Yeah, if you hit the Q&A button, yeah, some have definitely popped in here. So Artem says, what is going to happen if they will want to buy that property with you and implied agency by your action happened, by getting all the information, by asking the questions? You are the listing agent and dual agency is forbidden in BC.
Yeah, great question. This happens to us a lot. First off, we're going to do a recusal with the buyer. And so we're going to do the disclosure to both the buyer and the seller that we are going to continue on working with the seller, and that any of the information that we learn from the buyer obviously will be kept confidential. We will recuse that buyer to another agent. So we have some relationships with some great agents that will happily work with that buyer. Again, in our consultation, we would have talked about this process with them so that it makes more sense, so that they're well prepared. And so the agent on the other side is going to work for it. We'll pay them a 25% referral fee. They'll pay us back 75%. That'll be signed off by all parties so that it's all done above board. And again, we continue on with the transaction where the buyers will have their own representation and we'll be able to continue representing our sellers. So that's how we would do it.
So another one from Judy is, some buyers that don't understand BC real estate rules make calls and set up viewings with several different realtors, not the listing realtors. How do we clarify before showings up to a viewing that they aren't using 5 different realtors, Jason?
Yeah, great question. So again, if you go back to the interview process, what are some of the other properties that you've seen? Who's been out showing you properties? right? What's been your strategy around viewing homes? Ask the question and then listen to the answers that they're giving you. Again, as opposed to just saying, are you working with a realtor? That's a better way to elicit information and get them to open up, right? And so as you go through your process, not every prospect is going to be as maybe as solid as Joe was. I felt with Joe, it made sense for us to move it to the next phase. With some other people, you might find out they just want you to jump when you tell them how high, and you'll have to make a business decision at that point if that's the kind of client you want to work with or not. My opinion is if the client can't follow our simple process, then they're definitely not a client that's worth investing time into. They'll never be our client. So at the end of the day, there's an abundance of opportunities, and I promise you, people are looking for great systems and follow-up processes and things that are going to help them outperform this very difficult market. And if you just slow down and put more of the work up front, you'll actually get faster results for your buyers.
All right, there we go.
One other question on this?
Yeah, so if we represent the seller already, in case of the sign call, we're obligated to inform the seller by law of all the other info we obtain from the buyer lead.
Sorry, say that one again.
If we represent the seller already, in the case of the sign call, we are obligated to inform our seller by law of all the info we obtain from the buyer lead.
So legally, because we're giving agency to the buyer, we're not giving up any information from the buyer because we're working with the buyer. We're assuming agency with anybody because we've asked questions that are more in depth. If you were working with an unrepresented party, which we don't do as a group, then that would be the case that you would, of course, give any information to your seller to their advantage, but we don't do that. Our goal is we know that 95% of these sign calls are not going to buy that listing and probably don't even have their ducks in a row. But we know that there's amazing opportunity for client relationships. And if we follow a really good process, we convert a ton of sign calls. It's my absolute favorite lead source besides referrals is sign calls. So again, we do implied agency, which means we're going to keep confidentiality of the seller, but also the buyer.
All right, so one more before we keep moving here. So Chris asked us a few times here, how does your approach change when you get a call from a buyer that is experienced in buying, they're pre-approved, and they know that that's the property they want?
Perfect. I'm going to follow the same process with them that I would with anybody else. And so again, as I go through and I ask the questions, I'm going to say, look, I'm already pre-approved. We've already run the numbers. Everything's solid. Everything checks out, blah, blah, blah. Then I'm going to ask them straight up. I'm going to say, look, who else have you been out working with? And what are your intentions if you were to want to write an offer on this particular property? Let's just be transparent with one another up front. Ask the questions, right? But again, don't cut corners. I would still follow the process because buyers are going to tell you whatever you want to hear if you're not asking questions in the right manner. And again, the way that I'm asking the questions is I'm going to get deeper. And if I feel like I need to get more information, I'll get it because the way the questions are positioned. All right, Joe, let's move on to the next one. Let's focus on pre-qualifying sellers. So in this particular scenario, you're calling me up and maybe you've seen a marketing piece, maybe, you're wanting me to come by and give you a market opinion. And I'm going to go through my process. And in fact, this actually is a live scenario on how you and I met. So this is actually going to be really great. So ring, ring. Hello, this is Jason Simard with Sims Real Estate Group. How can I help today?
Hey, Jason, my name is Joe. And if possible, man, I got your name from somebody and I'd like you to shoot by and just let me know how much my property's worth.
Yeah, for sure, Joe. I'd love to do that. Now, Joe, just in case we get disconnected here, the number you're calling me at is 778-269-1288. Is that correct?
You got it.
Okay, awesome, Joe. Well, I really appreciate you reaching out. Now, Joe, what does your schedule look like over the next couple of days for me to pop by?
Yeah, if you could pop by tomorrow, that'd be great. Like sometime after dinner.
Okay, so tomorrow after dinner, why don't we tentatively book that right now? Now,
Sure.
Joe, before I pop by tomorrow, just after dinner, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. So I gotta ask, what's changed for you guys that has you exploring the idea of a potential move?
It's an older house. We want to get to something that's a little bit more sort of like turnkey. Also, the kids are getting older, so we don't utilize the backyard as much. So that's a lot more maintenance that we want to deal with. And yeah, that's sort of the big ones.
Okay, perfect. So you guys are in a house that's going to require more maintenance. You guys want something more turnkey, and the backyard has just become a little bit too much for you guys.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, cool. And Joe, what major upgrades have you guys done to the home over the last several years?
Oh man, you name it, we've done it. So granite countertops. We've got all new like laminate floor throughout the house. We've removed all the carpet. We actually converted one of the spare bedrooms into a walk-in closet right off the master, which is kind of nice. And done a ton of landscaping. And we actually redid our basement. It used to be a giant rec room, and then we divided it into two bedrooms and a bathroom. And then yeah, we completely redone the kitchen as well.
Okay, nice. So you guys have done some extensive renovation. So granite countertops, you put some carpet, you made the upstairs master bedroom bigger by converting one of the rooms into the
You
master
got
bedroom.
it.
Downstairs, you've got two bedrooms that you've added and a bathroom, and then you guys have done extensive landscaping of the property.
Yes, and then also we put a new roof on about 2 years ago as well.
Okay, perfect. New roof.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, you mentioned a couple things about your house. So you mentioned that it's going to need a little bit more maintenance. Besides that, what else is it about your home right now that isn't quite working for you guys?
Um, again, like it's a really nice house, but just want like something like new construction, better bones, and don't want to be worrying about, like I said, a lot about the maintenance. That's sort of the first and foremost, I think.
Okay.
And again, it's a big house. It's like 2,600 square feet, and we also really aren't utilizing, like there's like two empty rooms in there, so we're just
Right.
not utilizing it, I guess. So
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Now, so Joe, when this house sells, where did you guys plan on moving to next?
that's a really good question. I don't know. So hopefully you're not going to contribute to the homeless population by listing my house, but not too sure.
Okay.
But I'd
So
like to get up, maybe look at some stuff at some point.
sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you guys plan on staying local?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like we're in central Nanaimo right now. I'd like to be a little bit further north.
Okay, so you guys want to be more in the north end, like North Nanaimo,
Yeah.
Cat Bay.
I'd say like North Nanaimo, like behind Oliver Woods would be nice.
Okay,
I'd like to be in walking distance to grab those $2 Costco hot dogs.
okay, so walking distance to Costco. Love those hot dogs, man. They're a guilty pleasure for sure. All right, and then Joe, who else is going to be involved in the decision with you?
Involved in the decision, so just myself and my wife,
Okay, and what was your wife's name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Okay, perfect. Now, Joe, is Jennifer going to be able to be at the meeting tomorrow just after dinner?
Yeah, she will.
Okay, perfect. That's great. I really want to make sure that you're both there. And so, I mean, Joe, in your guys' ideal world, when could you see a move potentially happening for you guys?
Probably like later in the spring and then into the summer. I guess for me, I just don't really want to be like monkeyed around with the kids still in school.
Right, makes sense. So probably want to be settled in before the next school year starts.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay,
You got
fantastic.
it.
Now, Joe, my final question here, thank you so much for answering these questions, is can I ask what types of experiences you've had in the past when it comes to listing and purchasing homes?
Oh man. Yeah, used another agent before, and just wasn't really a great experience. So just yeah, just I haven't had great experiences, man. I'll be straight up with you.
Okay, well, can I ask you what was it about the previous experience you had that didn't quite work?
I just communication was huge. Like there were people like showing up for showings, and the agent would be calling us at dinner time. I mean, like I got two kids, an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old, and what was happening is like people were driving up for showings, and the agent was calling me while I'm looking outside, seeing cars pull up, and
Mm.
we're trying to like hide dinner in cabinets, and then yeah, just like I haven't gotten any feedback on what people are even think about the house when they're coming through. Like it's just I'm hearing crickets, man. And that's what happened last time. We had the house listed for 4 months, took it off.
Okay,
It was
well,
just it was such a frustrating experience. So Don't
Yeah.
be that guy, Jason. Don't be that guy.
You know what, Joe? One of the things we really pride ourselves in our process is communication. Really, really important. Showing strategy every time. We don't do any last minute showings. We like to make sure everything's very premeditated and that works around your life. This needs to be as seamless of an experience for you and your wife and your kids. And so that's something that we take a lot of pride in. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. And that's something that we'll be discussing when I meet with you and Jennifer tomorrow. Um,
Hmm.
Now, Joe, I just want to quickly recap with you just to make sure that we're kind of initially here on the same page. So, in a perfect world, you and Jen are thinking about a move sometime in spring, summer, so you'd be settled in before the school year. So, I'm glad that we're talking now. The other thing you guys are thinking of is you want a place that's going to be a little bit less maintenance. So, something more turnkey, a newer home, a little smaller yard so that has less upkeep. You guys really want to be more in the North Nanaimo area, walking distance to Costco and the high school. You guys have done an extensive amount of renovations to the home. So, again, we touched on that with the granite countertops, carpet, spare bedroom that was converted upstairs to the full master. You've got 2 beds, 1 bath downstairs that have been added as well. Fully landscaped property, new roof. Is there anything else that I'm missing here, Joe?
No, I think you've got the complete story, man. Yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page.
Okay, perfect. So here's what we're gonna do, Joe. So why don't we meet tomorrow, say around 7 o'clock? That way you can have dinner, you can kind of get the kids settled. Would that work for your schedule?
Yeah, seven's good. I'm Italian, so typically we don't eat till midnight, but I can push it.
Perfect. Well, maybe I can be involved in that because I love Italian. So I'll meet you tomorrow at 7. The other thing I'm going to do in the meantime, Joe, is I'm actually going to drop off what I call it's our seller guide. What it does, it goes through our whole process of what we do to consistently help our sellers outperform the market. So could you do me a big favor? Could you and Jennifer just take like 10 minutes before our meeting tomorrow at 7 to just read through that?
Yeah, we can do our best.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm also going to send you a quick email. What's the best email address for you, Joe?
It is Joseph at simscoachingsystems.com.
Okay, Joseph at simscoachingsystems.com. And what
You
was
got it.
Jennifer's email?
Jennifer at 123.com.
Jennifer at 123.com. Perfect. I'm going to send you a quick email. There's about a 3-minute video on there that walks through our process as well. So you guys can really get an extensive idea of what it is that we do to consistently outperform the market for our clients. There's going to be some links to some of our testimonials and reviews as well, so that you can kind of do a little bit more background on us, so that when I go there, we can really spend our time focusing on how to help you guys maximize your return with your property, get a really good sense of where the market's at, and then also put Jennifer and your mind at ease that we can help you guys find some homes. So we'll put a plan together on what that looks like. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 7. Any final questions before I let you go here, Joe?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, perfect. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 7, and then I'll pop by later and I'll just put it in your mailbox, Joe, and then I'll
Sure.
text letting you know that I dropped it off so I don't have to disturb you guys.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, excellent. So there you go. That's how I would pre-qualify a listing every single time, guys. Really, really important. Again, a lot of the same systems that we did right in the beginning, Joe. What did I do? I kind of focused on a tentative time for the showing,
Hmm.
asked you permission to go through and ask some questions, asked really great questions. So I'm going in having a really good, clear idea of what you guys have done to the home, your reasons for moving, right? The things that you guys are looking to gain, how your previous experiences have been in real estate. Why is that so important for me to know?
Well, you're going to know what not to do, which I think is a big one, right? And I think that builds a lot of it builds a lot of affinity, right? So in your mind, okay, so Joe's got a couple kids. Joe typically eats dinner around 5 o'clock. Joe's going to need a lot of notice for showings. So those last minute ones at dinner time aren't going to work. So you can actually formulate a plan before coming in and sitting down with me going, I know these are some of your concerns. Here's how I'm going to operate a little bit different to give you a better experience.
Exactly. So this is a real life scenario that happened. And what's funny, I'll share the story. So I showed up at the house, Joe being the Italian guy, he's outside working with some landscaper, some guy on gutters in your house. And so I meet Jennifer, super sweet, lovely, lovely lady. And she's like, hey, come on in. And she's like, oh, Joe's just busy. So, you and I can just talk and that's fine. And what I did, Joe, is I said, you know what, Jennifer, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But it's really important that both you and Joe are at the meeting, and no problem. I'm happy to reschedule because I see that he's busy. What did she do when I said that, Joe?
Well, I mean, number one, like I'm not a real handy guy, so I have to like loop somebody in to help me with like a piece of drain pipe that fell down. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, who the hell does this guy think he is? Friggin' t-shirt and blazer looking like Don Johnson rolling up here. And then Jen comes out and she's like, get your ass in the house right now. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so I ended up going in and sitting down.
Yeah. And so what happened is we had a really great interaction because I had both of you on the same page. We set up a strategy for an exploratory tour for the following weekend. You guys initially were thinking 3 months. After the exploratory tour, you guys saw some properties that you really liked, got you motivated. We had your house on the market within a week, got your place sold, got a great price that made a lot of sense for you guys. And next thing you know, we had you guys moving into a really nice property, and it all happened nice and seamless. And your mindset was like, you're going to be at least 3 months before you do anything. But because I had a really good system and process that made logical sense, that allowed you guys to feel comfortable with the experience, we were able to get 2 transactions out of it. And I knew that part of it was for me to get in front of you, but I wanted to come in with a plan so that I could put your guys' mind at ease. And there were some other challenges that your property had that we were able to overcome that had come up in the past as well. So again,
Yeah.
the point here is without a solid pre-qualification, I don't know what I'm walking into, right? And so I always like to go in prepared so that I can create and tailor the best experience. The other reason why I like to have the seller guide sent ahead of time, send the video and everything else is I don't want to spend my time at the listing presentation trying to sell my marketing or my sizzle or my ego. Nobody cares about that. I want to be at the meeting and I want to focus on connecting with you guys, right? Really getting a sense of exactly what you guys need and are looking for, creating a plan and reverse engineering the sale to help you guys get the best outcome. So those are the things that I focus on in those meetings. And I think those are the things that sellers truly want. I think if you're going in selling and doing a presentation, you're gonna have a lower conversion rate than someone like myself who's got systems and a plan and then is focused on connection, strategy, how to make this transition as smooth as possible. Because the things you guys are most worried about is not the marketing. You guys are most worried about like, hey, how do we seamlessly go from our family home to create a new home somewhere else? And that's the stuff that I need to help you guys overcome. So Joe, let's open it up to some questions around that particular process there. Anything in the chat?
Yeah, so lots in the chat here. So if the homeowner wants to know the house price but doesn't have any plans in the near future to move, would you still go? That's from Diane.
So again, if you go through this pre-qualification process, Diane, you're going to really find out the reasons why they're exploring it in the first place. And you're going to really find out their true motivations and the reasons they're wanting to do it. If they have zero motivations, zero plans to do anything, zero reasons why they would do it in the first place, um, then you have to make a business decision. And in this case, maybe you just send them a little bit of a general idea of what the home would sell for and don't spend too much time on it. But what my experience is when people reach out to you, it's because there's some need. They just don't really know the logical sequence and steps on how to make it. Because look, it's not just like a 1, 2, 3 thing to go from your family home to then create a new home for your family, right? Like there needs to be a system and a process to really move the hurdles that clients are putting in their own mind. So if you help them remove those hurdles and make it seamless in the path and a plan forward, and build a lot of value and trust, that's how you sell at a super high level, because you need to take that advisory consultative approach. So I hope that answers the question. So Diane, if there was zero needs uncovered, zero reasons, and I really went through, again, a thorough pre-qualification, would I personally go waste my time on that one? I personally would not in that case, but my experience is when I'm having those high level pre-qualification questions, 90% of the time there are needs that are being uncovered, real genuine ones. And look, I'm willing to play the long game. If they're a year away, 2 years away, that's okay. I would love to still get in front of those because we've had lots of clients that we met 2, 3 years ago that we've sold business with.
So another question here, Jay. It says, I get an inquiry call on a brokerage listing and I call the number and no reply. Should I leave a message, and how many times would you suggest I follow up?
Okay, I would call. If they don't answer, hang up, call right back. Number one, don't leave a voicemail on the first one. Second call, if they didn't answer that one, then I would leave a voicemail. Hey, it's Jason Simard. You had inquired on some information. I wanted to get back to you right away. It's important. Give me a call back. Boom. Give them your number. Do that. Send them a text. Always text. If you can't get a hold of them, text them. Hey, Joe, it's Jason Simard. I'm working on your valuation request, or I'm working on this. I had a couple important questions. Do you have a quick minute for a chat? And if that doesn't work, maybe you can just ask them a couple questions to see if you can engage them. Hey, what was it that prompted you to explore the idea of getting your home's value? What's changed for you that has you exploring the idea of a potential move? Something along those lines.
Right on.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think we've answered them all.
All right. Well,
we have a comment. It is from a Mr. Langdon. Oh man, don't bring up the Costco hot dogs. I've had 3 this week.
I think he said he's heard of Costco hot dogs sometimes this week. I don't think he's had 3 this week.
I don't know, man. I think he's had 3 this week.
Has he? Okay. Well, we're gonna go with that one then. Super thorough session. Awesome. Appreciate that, Richard. So look, I'm just gonna say this. We're part of the collaborativemovement.com, right? So our whole thing is like, we love to collaborate and help people level up in their businesses, help people put actual processes and systems so that they can go from being unconscious competent to conscious and competent. And if you guys want to scale your businesses to a predictable 6-figure income, a 7-figure income, you need to have competence and conscious competence at the same time. So processes, systems. You have to have your listing processes dialed in, your buyer processes, your after sale processes. You need to become masters of pre-qualifying different scenarios. You guys need to have like pillars in your business, a business plan. So these are all things that we work with our expansion partners, our coaching students on. So if you guys are looking to level up and build your business, I mean, we're on pace this year where our group's going to do well over 400 homes again. And we're doing this consistently because we have these systems and processes we put into play. We've got amazing agents that have systems and support to help them level up, and we can help you guys implement that for yourselves. So if you're interested in really having us as your mentors and having a vested interest in making sure you're successful, check out the collaborativemovement.com/Jason. Joe, if you want to put that in the chat, collaborativemovement.com/Jason, check it out. We've got some amazing value that we can provide there. If you're interested in looking at some coaching, Joe, if we post our Zoom links, people can book in a 30-minute free consultation. We can take a deep dive into your business and see if there's things that we can do to help you guys become more successful. And if our coaching program caters to you, we would love to help you guys take things to another level. So there's a lot of different ways that we can work with you guys to help you be more profitable and be more successful. But remember, slow down. Use your road sense right now in the sense that you need to spend more time up front to get faster and better results for your clients. I hope you guys found this super helpful. Thank you so much, everybody, and look forward to doing our next session here in the near future.
Thank you so much for watching. If you really found this valuable, smash the like button below, subscribe to our YouTube page, and then look for more amazing content.